Learning how to emotionally attune and become the conscious parent for your inner teenager is how you rewrite the story of your own internal power. It's no longer about control. It's about connection and choice. You're no longer the one being told who to be. You're the one deciding how to be. And your inner teenager never deserved to be the one who had to manage all your challenges or keep you good enough. They should have just been a teenager, enjoying life and figuring out who they are. So let's let them be a teenager again. Welcome to Grow with Robin Breckenridge, a podcast about stepping into the most fully expressed, aligned, and conscious version of yourself. Here, we dive into the real work of personal growth, establishing boundaries, understanding your patterns, building self-trust, healing emotional wounds, and creating relationships that feel safe, authentic, and fulfilling. I'm Robin, a life and relationship coach, and in each episode, we'll explore the tools, insights, and conversations that will help you not just improve your life and relationships, but truly transform them. You don't have to just go through it. Let's grow through it, and let's do it together. Welcome back to Grow with Robin Breckenridge. So you guys have already begun building a home inside of yourself, a place of safety, care, and truth. Now we're going to learn how to take care of the part of you that protects that home, sometimes in ways that are maladaptive. The teenager. Now remember, the teenager is the gatekeeper for the inner child. It's the part that made an unconscious agreement that basically said, hey, those feelings, little kid, that you felt in your childhood, I'm going to make sure you never feel them again. The part that said, no one will ever hurt you again on my watch. The one that tried to protect you, but had no idea what boundaries were. The part that was never meant to parent you, but often tried. It's the part that worked so hard to keep you, quote unquote, safe. This episode is for you. This episode is for the teenager inside. The one who learned to fight, to hide, and to guard. Every single one of us has an inner teenager, a version of ourselves who once began to separate from what we were told and move towards who we truly are. Your teenage years are a natural stage in development called individuation. It's where we begin to dethrone our parents from the pedestal of godlike perfection, because truly we really need them to survive. And when we're little, we don't see the flaws of our parents. We just see them as perfect, the smartest, most prettiest, most wonderful people. And of course, some of that is true. The part that isn't true is that they can do no wrong, because human beings have limits, wounding, and blind spots of their own. Individuating in a healthy system looks like we start forming our own values, our own opinions, our own dreams. It's where, as teenagers, we start seeing our parents as human beings. And we go like, oh, I saw how my mom handled that. Why would I take her advice that she's giving me? Or you watch the way your parents are managing their own feelings, and maybe you don't have a ton of respect for it. And then they come to you and say, hey, you better do it my way. And that's not rebellion for rebellion's sake. That's your spirit's first act of authentic freedom. And for many of us, that moment was met with punishment, shame, emotional withdrawal, or a loss of connection, or the threat of a loss of connection. So instead of completing our own individuation, we froze somewhere between belonging and freedom. And in some cases, there's so much enmeshment going on in your family system or in relationships within your family system that individuation or developing autonomy is simply just not available to us. So I know I mentioned this in the episode about meeting your teenager, but if anybody goes around a 14, a 15, a 16-year-old kid, they are kids. I currently have a 15-year-old living in my house. When I think back to when I was 14 or 15, I think at that time thought I was pretty grown and had a lot of things figured out. So I don't always look back to that part of me, and it doesn't necessarily feel like innocent. However, I was innocent and I was just a child. And so very similar to the inner child, like when you're a 14, 15-year-old dealing with feeling not good enough, ugly, like you don't fit in, shame, guilt, overwhelm, those are really challenging emotions for a 14, a 15, a 16, a 17, an 18-year-old to manage on their own. And it doesn't mean, again, that you had parents that weren't there 100% of the time. I mean, sometimes teenagers have a hard time expressing what's going on. And so just in that particular experience, they're alone in their feeling. But generally speaking, the teenager is the more protective energy. And when we don't have a conscious part of us on board, that teenager is going to perk up when you are being threatened. And it might say things like, I'll take care of it myself. I don't need anyone. You can't tell me what to do. It reminds me of a specific time that I was walking around my house. And of course, now, just like I teach you guys, I'm often in the energy of getting curious with myself. And I was like muttering under my breath, like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. And I'm thinking about, this particular situation that was going on in my life. And I stopped in my tracks and I gasped and I said, oh, what if I do give a fuck? Guess what? I did. I did, because I was walking around, with this armor on, and the armor was this teenager was like, oh yeah, we don't feel those feelings. That's my job. My job is to prohibit you from feeling those feelings. And although that sure helped at a time in my life, I know that I can manage feelings now, and that the only way to really be able to meet the need that's underneath that feeling is to attune and not dismiss or disregard how I'm feeling. So today we are here to talk about how to help that teenager, to de-pedestal them from being the one that protects us, that manages our challenges, because they always should have just been a kid. Like, I feel like your teenage part of your life is it's one of the last parts of your life where you don't have, typically have as much responsibility as you do as an adult. And that really your main job is to just kind of figure out who you are and test it out in the world. So when we were children, we definitely needed safety, amongst so many other things, but we have a core need of feeling safe. But as teenagers, we need both safety and freedom, or safety and autonomy. The freedom to explore, to question, to disagree. The freedom to be who you are. And if that freedom wasn't safe, if your authenticity was met with control, ridicule, or emotional neglect, your teen learned to either rebel hard or shrink small. Some of us became defiant, angry, outspoken, wild. Some of us became invisible, perfectionistic, accommodating, and desperate to please. And now that we're covering this topic, you can probably go back and listen to some of the guests I've had on this podcast, and you can see the direction their parts of self went. Like, I've told you guys some stories. My inner teenager kind of went that first route, angry, outspoken, wild, and then also in ways became invisible, perfectionistic, accommodating, desperate to please. However, that default for me was pretty spicy, as I have said before. So those are different sides of the same wound. Basically, it all means it's not safe to authentically be me. So healing your inner teen isn't about just going back and becoming sweet and agreeable. It's about reclaiming your right to be authentic in ways, really listen to this part, that don't take you out of your integrity. To have your own thoughts, to have your own truth, and to stop abandoning yourself just to keep the peace. This is the age where your nervous system might have learned independence without attuned guidance. And that's why your inner teenager often shows up as intensity, frustration, emotional shutdown. Teenagers don't need lullabies. They need leadership. They need someone who can listen, attune, hold space for the fire, have boundaries with them, and stay grounded. And just like we did with the inner child in our last episode, we still need to connect, protect, nurture, and empower this part of self. Only the ways we do it often look different. For instance, generally speaking, not true for everybody, but generally speaking, you don't nurture your teen with a Disney movie. You might nurture them with a long drive, blaring your favorite music. You connect through honesty and expression. You protect with boundaries that say, hey, I am not abandoning you, but I also won't let you burn down the house or harm yourself. You empower by giving them choices, not orders. And this is how we create that home inside that's safe for them to stay. So let's look at some ways to show up and repair when you feel activated for your inner teenager. Let's start with nurture. Some examples could be, and you guys, I could literally go on and on and on. There are so many individualized options here. Remember, the only thing we need to call on for this part of the work is creativity. You guys have the internet, you have ChatGPT, you can DM me, you can look up articles on this very thing. There are so many wonderful examples out there of how you can reparent and repair for this part of self. So here's some examples. Maybe you can make your favorite nostalgic meal from high school or go to your favorite restaurant that you used to love to go to as a teenager. Wear an outfit that feels expressive, not appropriate. Now, let me give an example of that. Just recently, I got invited to go see Stevie Nicks, which this is like huge for me. I love Stevie Nicks. Talk about authenticity. She's just been such a wonderful example of authenticity for me as a woman and as an artist. And I started thinking like, oh my God, what do I wear to a Stevie Nicks concert? And then I started overthinking it, as I do. And then it started not being fun to pick out the outfit. And I will tell you, I send my inner teenager to pick out all my outfits because she's fun, she's cool, and she's a little bit of a rebel risk taker. Like, she's got the fashion thing down for me. So it became not fun. And then I went, okay, well, I could like either try to like Pinterest the shit out of this outfit, or I could just go with like what feels authentic. And I found such a fun outfit in my closet. Didn't even need to buy anything new after like, time of searching and searching. So expressive, not appropriate. What that means is that it's more authentic than it is trying to fit in. One of my favorite parts about the work that I do, I mean, trust me, you guys, there's so many parts that I love, but one of them is that I can dress however I want. Like all of my clients know, sometimes if I'm in a mood where like I've just come from the gym or I'm just kicking it that day, I will get on sessions in a sweatshirt. I will get on sessions in a workout outfit. Sometimes I will dress up. Sometimes I won't. Sometimes I won't wear makeup. Sometimes I don't. And the reason that I show up this way in sessions is because it's authentic. There was a time in my life when Zoom kind of hit and I was like, oh my gosh, now I have to be on camera. and I got to be camera ready all the time. And, I got to do I wear like a blazer? What do I wear? And I was trying to be someone I'm not. I am not a traditional human being. Like odds are there are holes in probably every pair of jeans. I love a distressed everything. I'm just not, that's not how I am. So I decided, oh yeah, this work is not about how I look. But when you are authentic, it opens up the opportunity for other people to step into their authenticity. So I remember one time being on a call and someone said, oh, I love that you have your hair up. Like I can wear my hair up. I can just be where I am. And it was a really neat confirmation that like authenticity, man, it hits every single time, even if people don't understand you. So if we could give that teenager, instead of being like, oh, Lululemon, that's all we shop in high school or whatever. It's like, no, sweetheart, go be you. You don't have to wear Lululemon, wear whatever you want. And if Lululemon's it, cool. Take a solo day trip, headphones in, singing loud. Give yourself rest without guilt. Now, some of these repairs, if you're catching on or you listen to the last episode, can be the same. Like maybe in every part of self, you're going to go, yeah, I need boundaries around these type of people, or I need to allow myself to rest. Like that could be all the way through. So if you have repairs that you come up for parts of self that are repetitive, that's totally okay. Let's talk about connecting to your inner child. Remember, connecting means that you are in connection with this part of self. So it's not like, I'm going to go hiking because my teenager's, being shitty. It's like, no, go take that teenager on an adventure. I think one of my favorite approaches to my inner teenager is adventure, because that chick gets bored real easy. So I can make anything an adventure, and then I invite her in. I invite that energy in, and it feels like we're together. And as silly as this sounds, because we'll talk about like shifting from loneliness to solitude, but that shift means that we no longer only experience connection with people outside of us, that we can be in connection with ourself. And that shifts loneliness to solitude. Solitude means I'm in connection with me. So if you can figure out a way to be in connection with your inner child and with your inner teenager, boo, you will never be alone again. And there are so many fun things to do with these parts of self. So revisit old music that shaped you. I just saw something online that was talking about a study on, I don't remember the exact specifics of it, but that from like a certain age, which basically represents your adolescence, that your the music that you listen to or the art that you consumed at that time of your life is actually stored in a different part of your brain. Most people listen to music from that time of their life repeatedly as adults, meaning that we'll choose music from our adolescent years over like new music that we experience as adults. Maybe it's making your inner teenager a playlist, calling a trusted friend that you feel seen and heard with when that part of self is activated. Because remember, most of us are in the boat we're in because we were alone in managing our feelings. So never underestimate the power of the boundary pyramid and identifying who's in your trust category. And if you're one of the people like I was in the beginning of my work who doesn't have anyone in your trust category, one, you got a great opportunity to continue to put you in that trust category, or reaching out to a professional. If that is not available to you, a journal is also a really great trusted friend sometimes when we don't have access to other people. Maybe reconnect with something you loved at that time of your life. Maybe it was photography, skating, thrift shopping, journaling in a cafe. The list goes on and on. Let's get to how you protect your inner teenager. You can say no to relationships or jobs that drain your energy. I know the job one is complex, but trust me, when we get more conscious, not everything can go with us. And a lot of times people start to use discernment around people in their life, jobs, etc. Remember, this part of self, an amazing protective approach would be to pause before responding. The 24-hour rule is a great repair when you're activated for your inner teenager. Running it by a friend before you send it, or writing it out and never sending it. Because I know that when my teenager shows up to manage my conflict, there's never been a time that she's handled it in alignment with my value system. You know, when it comes to protection, especially with your teenager, boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Remembering that boundaries aren't walls. Remembering that we have the ability to have boundaries. And often it's having boundaries with that part of self. I have to put my inner child in timeout sometimes. Sometimes I have to leave a conversation and go shut my door, and I don't leave my bedroom until that part of myself is more regulated. Now, the reason that I'm saying that is my inner teenager is a little bit more explosive, and that teenager for me builds to a place where like I joke that I have two speeds. It's not really a joke. The two speeds are I will cut you or I will cut you off. Cut you means I'm coming for you. I no longer physically do any harm, but emotionally, nothing that I ever want to partake in again in my life. Or my inner teenager, because my inner teenager didn't have a boundary pyramid with 5 different categories to put people in. Her pyramid had 2 categories. You're in or you're out. And if you're out, you are dead to that girl. Like I would literally not even acknowledge your presence ever again. So I have way more resources in between I cut you or I cut you off. And how to empower your inner teenager? Maybe take yourself on an adventure. Maybe it's a hike somewhere you've never tried before, an improv class, solo traveling. I just had a client who just went to Peru all by her damn self. She's a boss. She called me up and was like, I am so proud of myself. All parts of me would be so proud of myself. She literally took her parts of self on a trip. I had a client this past summer who went on a European excursion, and one of those stops, the intention of it was just to connect with his inner child and his teenager. And he took those 2 on a trip, and he got lost in alleyways in Italy, and he went to museums, and he did all the things that those parts of self would love. And he called me with a smile ear to ear. And this is someone who has traveled the world and done so many cool things, but had never included energetically his parts of self. Empowerment might also look like speaking your truth even when your voice shakes, keeping one promise to yourself a day. Individuation is a sacred act. It's when we move from being shaped by our environment to shaping our own. As adults, individuation looks like this: stopping the cycle of generational trauma, choosing honesty over people pleasing, deciding to parent differently or live differently because we've seen what unhealed pain can do. Many of us are still learning how to individuate. Not so much from our parents, although a lot of times when people come in to work with me, that is something that we do. But definitely from the toxic systems, dysfunctional family patterns, and inner rules that once defined us. We can tell that teenager, hey, you know what, sweetheart? You don't have to earn love anymore. You don't have to work so hard. You're already enough. We can stop saying things like, hey, you know what? It's your job to keep everyone happy. And start saying things like, I can let people have their own feelings while I stay grounded in mine. This is our own form of modern individuation. It's rebellion turned into consciousness. It's you choosing alignment over the conditioning you were raised in. Guess what? Your inner teenager doesn't want to be told what to do. They just want to be heard. They want to know they're not crazy, not broken, not too much. They want someone to sit beside them and say, hey, you know what? I hear you. Your anger, it makes sense. Your silence makes sense. Your fear makes sense. It's okay to be where you are. But remember, you take care of your inner teen differently than your inner child. But they still need parenting. Because maybe when you get sad, your inner teen might grab your credit card and start online shopping when you're trying to save for something meaningful. Maybe they pick up the phone and call that person you already know is not good for you. Maybe they unwind with wine after work instead of setting boundaries at work. But those parts, they don't need punishment. They just need redirection. They need you, the conscious parent, to step in and say, hey, I get why you want comfort, or I get why you want blank, but let's find something that doesn't hurt us tomorrow. When they're reactive, they don't need a lecture. They need attunement. They need space, honesty, and an outlet. And above all else, they need someone to help them with what they're going through. The teenage energy in your system, it can be raw, passionate, physical, and creative. You can't outthink it. You have to either move it, express it, or channel it. And here's some ways to meet that energy safely. Ways that you could move it: strenuous exercise, kickboxing, yoga, tai chi, dancing, hiking, running, or team sports. I think one of the saddest things about moving out of adolescence is so many of us give up the things that we loved because now we have to be adults. Like maybe you danced in high school, or you played football, or you played soccer, and then you went to college and you no longer were, college level sports material. So you just never did it again. There are so many of my clients that have connected back to things they gave up at that part of their life and find so much joy and connection in it. So onto creative ways that you could apply some of these repairs to your connect, nurture, protect, empower, or just ways that when your teenager is activated, they could choose a less harmful choice: art, poetry, journaling, songwriting, acting, or improv. I swear one of these days I'm going to have one of my clients that took an improv class come on the podcast, because I've never done an improv class, to be quite honest. I think I'm too much of a wuss. I have had clients that had like full-blown spiritual experiences or learned things very similar to the things that I teach in this work. Dancing in your kitchen. I personally do some bathroom dance parties with the door shut. Or finally taking that singing class and lesson that you always wanted to. Ways that you can soothe it. Take a time out. Sometimes I encourage my clients to get what I call a timeout chair, which is where you pick a chair in your house and you kind of devote it to that teenager. If your teenager is a hard one to control when she has, decided she wants to do something, and you just close that door and, you just kind of stuff that chair with things to help that part of self while you're, managing the feeling or calming down from the feeling. Like maybe it's a word search, maybe it's a crossword, maybe it's your AirPods so you can listen to music, maybe it's a journal, anything. Maybe it's a daily devotional that kind of can help shift you out of that inner teen and back to a more resourced part of you. But for a lot of us, we have really strong teenagers. It's not everybody. I was one of them. And I truly needed to, in fact, like I remember being a kid and being a talkative student, if you can imagine. And I had a teacher that would make me sit on my hands And although as a teacher, an elementary teacher, or any of the grades that I taught, I never had any students sit on their hands. That is something sometimes I use as a strategy to manage my inner teenager when I know that that is the next least harmful choice. Like sit on your hands versus pick up that phone or grab those car keys or whatever it is. So taking a timeout, getting that part of self a timeout chair, practicing breath work, calling someone in your trust category, trying any type of meditation, but maybe one that's specific to surrendering or laying on the floor with a weighted blanket, playlist, or listening to music that matches your mood. And of course, we want to be discerning if somebody is going through a breakup, if somebody is having a hard time, you want to definitely be discerning about the content that you're consuming. I mean, if they're songs that make you sad or remind you of someone or remind you of a really traumatic period in time of your life, those might not be the things that we want to listen to at that moment. Some other examples are writing a compassionate letter to your teen self, making, again, a playlist, like I said earlier, that captures your emotions, trying something new, or something that might be a little scary. Like I know for my teenager, I just had to kind of bring some repairs in that had a little bit of an edge because my teenager really enjoyed intensity. And what I found as an adult is intensity for me and peace. And I'm going to speak a little bit more like relationally. They don't tend to go together. So I like to direct that need for intensity in ways that are less harmful. So maybe it's starting a new podcast or taking on a new project at work, but something that has a healthy amount of fear because it's new or it's a growth experience. That might be something kind of fun for the teen. Skateboarding, road tripping, hiking, saying no, taking a break, a walk, or doing anything that is a way to express your anger safely. Kickboxing, rage on the page. Maybe it's seeking out some specific help around anger management. Guess what? All of these things now we can do. Each time you move that energy through expression instead of suppression, you are telling your nervous system, it's okay to be who I am now, and it's okay to be where I am. It's okay to experience the feelings I'm experiencing. Your inner teenager needs a leader, not a critic, not a controller, not a savior. A leader who can listen, validate, and hold firm on boundaries. When they say, no one understands me, you can say, you're right. No one could back then, but I do now. When they say you can't tell me what to do, you can say, hey, I'm not here to control you. I'm just here to offer up what might be the next kindest choice. Let's talk about it together. Now, I know this sounds kind of silly because this isn't a real person. You don't have multiple personalities. I talk to my parts of self all the time, not out loud. I don't look like I'm crazy, but I am talking to them often. Because you go try to have a relationship with someone you don't talk to, or the only times you talk to them is when you're telling them that they're messing up and how they could do things better and how everyone else is doing it better. It's not going to be a very healthy relationship. Or when they say, I don't trust anyone, you can say, that makes sense. You didn't have a lot of reasons to, but we can rebuild that now together. We got the boundary pyramid, girl. So learning how to emotionally attune and become the conscious parent for your inner teenager is how you rewrite the story of your own internal power. It's no longer about control. It's about connection and choice. You're no longer the one being told who to be. You're the one deciding how to be. And your inner teenager never deserved to be the one who had to manage all your challenges or keep you good enough. They should have just been a teenager, enjoying life and figuring out who they are. So let's let them be a teenager again. Remember, no part of us is all good or all bad. And I'll probably do some episodes about finding the positive parts of your wounded parts, because we all have them. But ultimately, we want to integrate these parts, not exile them and not get them to comply. So here's a few ways that I integrated my inner teenager. Again, I let her pick out my outfits. I use her wit and quickness. I call on her for her bravery and her sometimes fearless energy to help me step forward in growth experiences that scare me a little. I call on her when I need boundaries because she was brave enough to have them. It's just, I wouldn't call what she had boundaries exactly, but definitely had a fight response. And I absolutely call on her when I want to have a good time, because my teenager loves to have fun. My teenager has the ability to make anything fun, because there are helpful and non-helpful behaviors in every part of us. And just like in our last episode, I'm going to give you the same invitation that I gave you to repair the ways you are managing and tolerating your feelings for your inner child, for your inner teenager today. So we talked about in a previous episode, a challenging feeling you remember feeling as a teenager, what you remember doing or what action you remember taking when you felt that feeling. And then we high leveled it to a pattern. I want you to put a reparative action at the end. That means that we are pausing and considering that we could still manage and tolerate that same feeling in non-harmful ways. So it could be that you felt angry as a teenager. What would you do? You would lash out. High level, that's a fight response. Okay, so is that fight response helping us? Is it helping us stay in connection with the people we love? Is it helping us feel understood? Probably not. So maybe the reparative action could be 24-hour rule when I'm angry, that I won't send that text or break up with a person for 24 hours. Maybe the reparative action is a rage on the page. Maybe it's calling someone safe. Maybe it's just simply pausing and getting curious. There's going to be a lot of additional resources available to you guys in this podcast, but this episode today is getting the ball rolling. It's helping us lean into doing it differently. So I want you guys to put a reparative action for the one that we talked about in previous episodes. And I want you to give it a go this week, or when you catch that same challenging feeling coming up, like write this down and keep it somewhere. I think I told you guys the story before, but the reason why I'm passionate about writing these things down, there was a time in my life where I called someone super activated in a part of self, possibly blacked out in a part of self. I had no idea what to do. And she goes, didn't you just write down some things? I go, okay. And I looked at it and I was like, I guess I could take a walk. I knew I could take a walk. But remember, when we are activated or flooded with our feelings, logic is typically not a part of the process. So thank goodness I had it written down and I went, okay, instead of doing this thing I would normally do, I'm going to go take a walk. And that walk did not hurt me or anyone else. Now, did it solve the whole situation? No. This isn't about getting out of the feeling. Getting out of the feeling isn't going to help you. The feeling is the knock that says there's a need here that you need to address to continue on your spiritual path. So we don't want to get away from our feelings, but we do want to learn to manage them. We do want to learn to take care of ourselves in ways that aren't harmful to ourselves and others while we're experiencing that feeling. So before we close, take a moment to connect with that teenage version of you. See them in your mind's eye, their posture, their expression, their energy. What do they need? What are they trying to say? If you were to write them a note, maybe it would say, I see your strength. I know you were just trying to survive. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for me, but I can lead now. And maybe they'd write back, it's about damn time. Remember, integration isn't about erasing these parts of self or the essence that was a part of that part of self. It's about honoring it. And it's about giving it direction through the lens of consciousness. So repeat after me, if it feels right in your body. I am becoming the conscious leader my inner teen has been waiting for. I can honor my independence without abandoning my heart. I can hold my fire and still choose peace. You're not rebelling or shrinking anymore. You're remembering who you are. And that's the real individuation. That's where autonomy and freedom begin. So go have some fun with your inner teenager this week. If you guys got any good stories, let me know. I love hearing them. Go play basketball, go for a walk, go have a dance party, go make it a playlist. Remember, any of those actions that help you connect, protect, nurture, and empower this part of self can be used when you're activated. So instead of doing the things that you wrote out when we were digging into your childhood and your teenage years, remember, all we got to do is do it differently and then get the data and see what happens. So have a great week. Go take care of that inner teenager. Go lean into being the attuned parent that they always needed. Next week, we're going to talk about how we take care and repair that maladaptive adult part of us. Then it's gravy from here on out, right? Now we got some other things to learn. I'll see you soon. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here and for doing this work. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come connect with me over on TikTok at Robin Breckenridge or Instagram at Coach with Robin, where I share even more insights, tools, and conversations around boundaries, self-trust, relational healing, and so much more. And just a quick reminder, this podcast is for educational and personal growth purposes only. The insights and tools I share are based on my experience as a life and relationship coach and are meant for general guidance. Each person's story is unique, and the nuances of individual experiences can't always be addressed in this format. What's shared here may not be applicable to every situation, especially those involving abuse, oppression, severe mental illness, or systematic harm. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please seek support from a qualified mental health professional or emergency resources. Thank you for listening and for showing up for yourself in this way. Take care, and I'll see you next time.